Hey, everybody. Happy Monday to you. I hope that you're having a great day and that you're winding down. I tell you, time got a hold of me on this side of the woods, and it's an hour behind or hour ahead, one or the other. Oh my God, it threw me off. I was aware and then I became unaware. But nonetheless, I am here and you are here, and that's all good. Welcome to Winning Ways. If this is your first time, thank you for tuning in. I need you, if you're on the YouTube side of things, of the platform, whatever, I need you to hit that subscribe button. Yes, share, comment, be engaged, okay? And let's just chit chat a little bit. It's not going to be a long show. I am getting used to making my shows a bit shorter. Again, if you're new, I'm Stephanie Solomon, an author, a life coach. My niches are family dynamics and forgiveness. I have to remind myself. And I'm an author, and my podcast, I've been an author since 1997. I've written several books, and my podcast has been around since 2010. I'm on this side of YouTube, now, and it's been a few months, and it's very different than just audio, but I'm here and I'm hanging in there. And basically, I teach from my books. I have a lot of topics to expound upon, never can get tired. There's always something new to add. And also from my life coaching experiences as well. So feel free if you're looking for a life coach with my niches, maybe we're a good fit. We'll find out. I have free consultations available, and you can schedule and check everything out at www.stephaniebooks.com and schedule everything there. Well, let's get moving and make this significant and move forward. You know, there are times I have guests on, and I will be having some guests on very soon. So stay tuned to find out who they are and what their niches are and how they complement the show. Well, tonight I'm coming from my second book, Living with the King. All right. And I'm going to just read a very brief section because I'm inspired by the chapter, The Great Awakening. All right. So we're just going to read just a fraction here. And it reads, he tells us to awaken and arise, for there is kingdom work that must be done before his return. There are words of hope and healing that must go forth out of our mouths. We too scream to be free and to be awakened by our King. In our awakening, we relentlessly push forth to break free from the grip of slumber for the hope, health, healing, and wholeness that is found in our awakening is near, it is great, and worth struggling for. Well, tonight's topic deals with how we emerge, how we come forth, not so much how we come out, but how we emerge from our trial, our dilemma, that thing that has had us in a bind for quite a while. And again, if you're new, my podcast is Christian based, disciple centric. And so you will hear scriptures to validate, qualify, support what I am talking about. All right. Okay, let's go for it. Hello, how you doing? I need you to chit chat, subscribe. There you go. Thank you. All right, so emerging, the Great Awakening. I just want to help someone tonight who has been in your hardship, your struggle, your trial, your tribulation, your struggle for some time. And you have questions that I am not qualified to answer, only God. And even God has decided to be silent as he is working with you, because he is. He is working with you, and you will come out of this. This too will pass. God will exchange beauty for ashes. We are not created to stay in the fire, to go through the fire, and to be placed in where God even calls us into painful situations. He calls us into dire straits. God anoints us for and qualifies us for hard times. We're graced for it. And I've said this time and time again on my podcast. We have to be careful not to compare, not to compete with other people, look at all the glitz and glitter and what we see on the outside, because we surely don't know what goes on behind closed doors. But we sometimes compare and compete, complain, and conform. Talked about that a few weeks ago. But we are looking at the external. And the truth is, for all of our journeys, we are graced for them. We look at some people and the trials and struggles they go through. Many of us could not endure. People are graced and anointed to go through the pain, the suffering, the long suffering, which is part of being filled with the Spirit of God. There, we are graced for our struggles. So when we come through and we come out, there ought to be something different. Sometimes people get, excuse me, upset when people say, "Oh, you've changed. You look different. You act different," as if, it's should be something negative. The truth of the matter is that's a compliment. It's a compliment. Especially when we know that we are anointed and we're chosen. And yes, the struggle is real. It hurts. We wish it would end, but it has been tailor-made for us. And so when someone says you're different, I've heard someone say you're different and I don't like who you are. Well, it did hurt at the time. I was a babe in Christ. It hurt. But I knew that what I was becoming, and I wasn't who I am now. And I knew that I was not willing, ready, didn't have a desire to return to that image that person had of me in their head. And some of it was true. Wasn't willing to go back. But it's a compliment. It is a compliment. Hey, folks, I see you jumping on. Thank you. I need you to subscribe. If you're on the YouTube side, hit that subscribe button, share. And hey, feel free to put in some comments tonight. All right. Thank you. When we emerge as a child of God, we ought to look different and sound different. There ought to be something about us that, it does irritate the person or people who would like for us to conform and resort to the way that we were. There ought to be proof that we were somewhere and we've come through something and we've come from something that was dismal, that was dark, that seemed torturous, that was painful, that included a lot of hardship and suffering. When we come through, there ought to be evidence. And I'm just going to touch base on some of the things. One thing that people ought to recognize is that you have not a sense, but you are humble. Humility drives the train for you. Humility is because there is false humility, folks. Oh yeah, I'm not talking about being nicey, measy, mousy. I'm talking about knowing who you are. You can be strong and you can be assertive and be humble. Humble is knowing who and whose you are, who gets the credit for your emergence, who gets the credit for keeping you the entire time you were out of sight. I like to say, put on a shelf. When you weren't visible by everyone else, when you were off the grid for a while, who gets the credit? Because while you and I are off of the grid for a minute, the Lord is working on us. See, emergence is really about development. And I say this to those who seek me out for assistance in their forgiveness process and with issues and with their family dynamics and other life matters. Life is a journey, and it's a journey filled with different aspects, dealing with our social awareness side, our self awareness side, different parts and aspects of us. They're processes. It's a process to everything that we're learning. We're being developed, we're evolving. We should not be the same. That's why I say it's a compliment when someone says, "You changed." They got to put that face and that with it. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you for the confirmation. Yes. And that emergence really is about development. And when we are out of sight, off the grid for a bit, yeah, we're going through what we're going through. Everybody doesn't have to know about how many tears we've cried, how many tears we've dropped, how many pillowcases we have soaked with hot tears. Hey, that's the reality. How many conversations, the types of conversations we've had with God. No one needs to know all of that. That's about relationship. And I've talked about that before. It's not about religion, it's about relationship. I love God, He loves me. He shows me that He loves me. I show Him that I love Him. Love is an action. So that emergence, what God has been developing in us, what God has been pruning, what God has been speaking into us, what God is taking out and pouring in, that's what's happening while we are on the shelf, out of sight. But when we emerge, we won't be perfect, but we will be better. One thing that I've always said on this show about becoming better is an indicator is a person should not be bitter. And I've said that multiple times. We want to be better, not bitter. And if we emerge from a trial, whatever it is, financial, personal, health related, family related, economic, whatever it is, professional, career related, whatever, we should not be bitter. We have our moments. We're human. We can be angry, and God can handle our anger. I've shared this before about my temper tantrums I've had with God. He lets me chill, cool down, because He's not subservient to me. He's sovereign. I am the servant of God. I am subservient to Him. And when I chill, He speaks. And He speaks when and how He wants to me. But when we emerge, we should be better. So take it as a compliment when someone says, "You've changed." That's good. That's good news. Well, let's look at the change. The better, not the bitter, but the better should include humility. A sense of, I know who and whose I am. I know who's kept me. I know who's changed me. The God who changes not has changed me. He's transformed me, and He's still doing it. And I live my life in honor and reverence and obedience to Him. That's what humility is all about. I will and I can do great things because the great God that I serve, who's greater than all else, Lord of all, works in me, through me, and for me. And I cannot be arrogant, which is the opposite of humility. I can't be arrogant because I know where my help comes. It is not the Bible says it's not of our own sufficiency. So I'm not doing anything in and of myself. I'm working with God. Yes, I'm being willing. I'm being open. Oh my God, I'm being teachable. Oh my God, that's a big one. I don't want to stay here too long with that. But that's one of the biggest, oh my God, the biggest, I would say, hindrances that many of my clients come to me with. They say they want to be better, but as we move forward, and I've had this problem myself, it's having a teachable spirit. A teachable spirit is an indicator of a humble spirit. And when we can tell when we have some residue of arrogance and haughtiness and pride. Because we can be nice and touchy-feely and soft, but when the Lord starts requiring things of us, and we start seeing ourselves as the center of all things, the universe, or giving credit to other things like the universe. Folks, the universe doesn't save us. The universe is a creation of God like we are. Just want to drop that. But in our humility, we are honoring God and we are showing who he is and who we are and who we are not as well. All right. So we come forth with the spirit of humility. We come forth stronger and we come forth wiser. If you and I have been through anything that has caused bankruptcy of the spirit, bankruptcy financially, has caused heartbreak, heartache, just emotional devastation, mental anguish, and we've been through it a long or intense time, we ought to come through with some kind of lesson learned. Because I've learned God may not allow it to come back again, but he will allow segments, pieces to show up in different aspects of our life, our work life, our family life, whatever. And wisdom will say, I recognize this. This may be a different situation. Oh my God, this may be a different person, but that same spirit. Oh my God, this is a different person, but the same spirit is at work. You know, we win when we learn lessons. When we learn lessons, because I've learned the Lord will allow pieces of a situation that harmed us or where we didn't get the victory before enter our space again. And we ought to recognize some things, some character traits, some familiarity, familiar spirits, energy in the room, the energy of someone's words, their tone, how they speak to us, how they look at us. We ought to recognize these things. They ought to be familiar, and we ought to have learned some lessons. Wisdom is not so much the knowledge that we obtain along the way. It is how to use it and when to use it. When to listen, how to listen, when to say something, when not to say something. I talked about the art of listening. And I try to be as transparent as possible on here. One of the hangups that I had was I don't think fast on my feet. You know, when I walked away and when it was all over, I realized I should have said this. I should have said that. Oh, I know I would have really knocked it out if I had said this, that, or the other, right? But then I had to learn as I got older and older that oftentimes it is in not saying something where we win. Yeah, the art of, and we get to really hear not just what the person is saying, oh my God, what they're not saying too, and what they're really saying about themselves, you know, what they're really saying about themselves, that they really don't want people to know what they are exposing about themselves. So we ought to emerge wiser. We ought to emerge stronger. I'm not talking about physical strength, but there ought to be an emotional stableness that only God can give us. Because if you're like me and you've been through hell and back and then again, and God has allowed multiple trials to happen to you simultaneously. He graces you for it, but he allows. I'm telling you, no one but the Lord can give us the grace, the strength, the favor to endure any trial. One trial. Oh my God. 2 trials, 3 at the same time or more. That's nobody but the Lord. And I also learned that type of strength, godly strength, is humbling as well. It's humbling because we know in our humanness, there's no way a human being can, I had someone say to me years ago, she said, that doesn't seem natural. Well, the truth is, it wasn't natural. That my disposition about this matter had come to a place where I realized, there's nothing else I can do with this. I don't like it. I don't want it to be this way. I don't want the tables to turn in that direction. But there's nothing I can do. And I just come to a place of peace about it. And the person said, that's not natural. And as I thought about it, you're right. It's not natural. Because a few years ago, I would be falling apart. So this is no one but God. No one but God who is keeping me and allowing me to endure this. Only God. What does she say here? Only God. That's right. That's right. That's right. Absolutely. Only God has gotten you through. Yes, indeed. I agree, Lionel. Only God. So it's the strength of God. So people ought to see a newfound strength about you. And it doesn't mean that you've grown muscles physically, but you've grown muscles in the spirit. You have grown muscles in the spirit. The other thing that ought to be evident as you and I emerge ought to be our faith. People should see a level of faith, because when we think about it, faith seems nonsensical anyway. It's the evidence of things hoped for. All right. Faith is what we hope for, but the evidence of things that are not seen. See, we can speak things that are not as though they are. We can hope for something that we don't even see. But understand that faith has to be according to the will of God. Because I've had people, I have faith, they have faith for things that are not in the will of God. And you know the will of God by reading his word. All right. So our faith will be even stronger. I've learned that the Lord has put me through extreme test to strengthen my faith. My faith has been strengthened. Didn't like the process. No. Went kicking and screaming. No, but on the other end, coming out, my emergence, I've seen that my faith was strengthened, and not by my works, nothing that I did. Again, that humbles me to see that my faith has been strengthened because of this process that the Lord has taken me through. So there ought to be proof of that, proof of grace, that there's favor over one's life. Because if you and I are really aware, not just self-aware, but socially aware of our environment, we will notice that there are people who have endured the same thing. The Bible says there's nothing new under the sun, and that we, should understand that our brothers and sisters are going through the same things. So there's nothing new under the sun, nothing, no situation, And I have seen and heard of individuals who were being tried just like myself, and they did not make it. They didn't make it out alive. Literally, did not make it out alive. I've seen other people go through same types of tests. Some made it out, some did not. So faith has been strengthened, but the grace of God is evident also over us while we're in our circumstance. There ought to be evidence of grit. I remember I was going through something several years back when I was teaching. I'm retired now. I've had several administrators along the way, and many of them attend. They're in my circle. They're in my Christian community, and some attend the same church, but we're in the same communities. And one shared with me with a strong stance. We were talking about something, I don't even remember. But what I do remember is how she looked me dead in my face and said, "You know, you have grit." Now, the only time I remember hearing that word used was from a movie that John Wayne played in. I think it was called True Grit or something like that. And so it startled me, actually, because that was my only connection, form of reference. And it just stayed in my spirit all day. Grit, grit. I didn't know how to use it, how to apply it in context. But when I realized what it meant, I didn't still see myself as that. And it's amazing how, us having grit, but the Lord will give us that unction to be able to endure, to persevere, to be tenacious in the harshest of environments. I know what it's, and not lose our shine, not lose our glow, our glee, our gleam. That's only God. That's the keeping power of God that can give us grit in moments of fierce battles. Working in the school system, there are some very fierce moments, breaking up fights, being with troublesome parents, yes, all kind of stuff. And now we got the gun situations. But I tell you, I've been in multiple situations, and for that person to say that, I just came back and gave God the glory because he was keeping me in those moments. So we come out with grit, which really prepares us for the next thing. And I know we don't want to, oh my God, I just got out of something. You talk about preparing for the next. As long as we live, there's going to be a next. God gives us breathers and breathing spaces, time to regroup. He does, but there's going to be another battle. There's going to be another fight. There's going to be another test. There's going to be something the Lord allows the enemy to do. There's going to be something that God brings into our space to test us, to show us how we have been transformed, how we're different, how we're better. All right. And finally, I want to deal with fortitude, that ability to keep on keeping on. And see, all of this comes from Job chapter 23, verse 10, where the Spirit says, he knows, talking about the Lord, he knows the way that I take. When he has tried me, I will come forth as gold. I like how some versions say, I will come forth as pure gold. And if we know anything about pure gold, that purifying moment, or the process rather to purify gold, that's process. And for us to become pure as gold, oh my God, that is a process. It really is.
Baltimore author Stephanie Solomon has released her third book, Aging with Grace. Messages from Aging with Grace targets girls and women of all ages. Learn Christ's perspective on sex, parenting, and more. Aging with Grace is available on Nook, Kindle, and anywhere books are sold.
All righty then. Well, that's it for this evening. I came from my second book, Living with the King, and that advertisement was for the third book, Aging with Grace. And all of my books are available wherever books are sold. And if you want a signed copy, just log on to www.stephaniebooks.com, order your book from there, and you will have a signed copy. Well, thank you for joining me tonight. I hope that what I shared has been a blessing. This will go up on the YouTube channel. All right. And hey, spread the word. I would love for you to be a part of the YouTube community that I'm building over there. And we all know about those algorithms and all that, right? Okay. All right. Well, have a wonderful week, everybody. Have a great week. And if you are in the Baltimore area, I encourage you tomorrow night and Wednesday night to be a part of our New Beginnings. It's not a revival. We kind of not calling it, but it is it's going to regroup, revive, and it's going to do a whole lot more for us because it's a new season. It really is a new season for us. And if you're in the area, I invite you to the New Psalmist Baptist Church. It's going to be an awesome experience, not an event, an experience, an encounter. And if you can't, just log on to www.newpsalmist.org. And I hope I said that correctly. And join us there for a great experience. All right. Well, take care, everybody. Thank you for joining in this Monday. Lord willing, I'll be back next week. Take care. Next week, doing the same thing and hoping that God is pleased. Take care. Bye-bye.